Okay, last game, guys. Fiesta Bowl. I can't say I saw this matchup coming, but number 23 Liberty, an even bigger underdog than Florida State. Oregon, number 8 in the country, 17.5-point favorite. That game is going to be on New Year's Day, 1 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. Body Clock, don't forget about that for Oregon. We're not going to be talking about Body Clock, probably not for this game. This is really just the SEC pod today, because this is the one game we're discussing that doesn't feature an SEC team, but it's got 2 former SEC quarterbacks starting in this one with Bo Nix and Caden Salter, plus Dan Lanning, longtime Georgia assistant, obviously, and Jamie Chadwell, a Tennessee native who grew up such a big fan of the Vols that he names his son after Heath Schuler. People forget that. Yeah, big Tennessee fan. Yeah. This is an SEC Bowl. Oregon is built like an SEC team. We did just see, and I wonder how much this factors into a very significant spread. We did just see the Ducks lose outright as 9.5, 10-point favorite, depending on where you got it. Bob, we'll start with you. Any trepidation knowing about maybe this lacks motivation for Oregon, despite the fact that Bo Nix is playing in this game?
You remember about 7 minutes ago when I said occasionally I'll tell you that the line tells me all I need to know?
Yep.
Well, funny you bring up that Pac-12 championship game against Washington, because I said, well, here's Oregon in a revenge spot as a 9.5-point favorite. They're going to kill them. And, lo and behold, that did not happen. And I was burned by Oregon, and I have a lot of animosity, lingering animosity towards the Oregon Ducks going into this game.
The whole state, Bob.
I hate Oregon. I wish nothing but failure for this team. Look, I think that this is a game where you get an opportunity to watch 32-year-old Bo Nix get one more shot at it, send him out on a high note against Liberty, one of the most prestigious programs in the entire country. What a game. I, for one, am really excited about this one. I'll be my ass will be parked firmly on my couch for this one.
Bob, I think you provided the most sarcastic answer in the history of Saturday Down South airwaves. And for a podcast that includes Marler, that is no small feat, my friend. Well done.
That was no small whiff that I had on that Pac-12 championship game. I want you to feel that through the microphone right now.
That is look, if there's ever a reason to bet against Oregon, that is probably it. Marler, usually have reasons to bet on Oregon. I know you're a big Bo Nix guy. The fact that he's playing in this game, fun, great for bowl games, great when the best players are actually out there. Won't fault the kids that aren't, but understand that there is still benefits for all parties who decide that. But are you coming back to the fact that Liberty hasn't faced a Power 5 team this year? And I think their strength of schedule is dead last in the country. Like, are you looking at that saying, yeah, I can't even take 17.5 for Liberty?
So again, I'm not compartmentalizing, but I'm really going down to the more the nitty gritty. I'm looking at the first quarter, I'm looking at the first half, and I'm looking at team totals in this one, because 17.5 is a lot. I will say this: you look at some of the numbers. I mean, like I remember looking at some of the strength of schedule numbers during the college football playoff rankings, and each week I was just trying to find ways to slander Michigan, and I did, and I found that I just want to be very clear, I was able to do that. But looking at the strength of schedule stuff, one thing that always jumped out, I was like, who the hell is 132nd in the country in strength of schedule? Always Liberty. Like bottom 3 in the country in strength of schedule. They haven't played a single solitary soul. But I will tell you this, group of 5 teams against Power 5 opponents in New Year's Six Bowls, they've fared a little bit better than you would think. You talk about just over the years in 8 different games, they're 4-4 in games against Power 5 opponents in New Year's Six Bowls that aren't the playoffs. So that's excluding Cincy. From the the 2021 playoff game, but they're 4-4 in those games. That they are 1-3 over the last 5 years, but they're 4-4 overall. Those teams have scored 30 or more points in 6 of those 8 games. When you talk about Liberty, they are a top 5 offense in the country in scoring. They're ranked 5th in the country in scoring offense for a full game. They're ranked, they're 3rd in first quarter points per game, tied with Oregon actually, and they're 4th in first half points per game, 1 spot behind Oregon. As well. So I think that when I look at this, the line 17.5 does seem like a stretch. Even their team total at over 23.5, which the juice is on them to cover, I think is a little bit of a stretch. But I do love the total over in the first quarter, over 14. I love that. I would look at the first half as well. But Oregon is like you said, they are built a lot like an SEC team. I just think that if Liberty's going to get them, they're going to get them early. And when they're on script and try to get as many points early as possible and try to drag this thing out, and so it's somewhat close late.
Bob, I don't like the fact that Vegas is trying to limit the person looking at this game saying, screw it, I'm betting the over. I don't like that they've already baked that into that over, which last I checked was 64.5, I want to say, for this one. Like
66.5 today.
6.5 is wild.
Dang. Like this game should be that. And it should just be, for a lot of people, it probably will be. If somebody was sitting here trying to figure out if they're just which overs they're gonna bet, and that's all they want to do during bowl season. They don't want to have to figure out first half money lines or stuff like that. They're not into the nitty gritty, and they're like, I just want to be able to sit down on a random day and root for freaking points. Yeah. Is this game a spot, or is that 66.5 is just too high?
Yeah, I'm going to give you two things on this, and I'll get to the point right away. I don't think it's too high. I'm going to take the over. Like, let's get crazy here, right? And I'm going to look at two different things that kind of relate to Liberty. Like, I know that Oregon is going to probably score at will. So really, when you're looking at the total, it's what can Liberty contribute to this effort? So a couple things about this. Like, yes, the strength of schedule is not great, but I will go back to the fact that over the last 2 years, when they've played a team with a winning record, they're 7-0 against the spread. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think you can kind of rely on and say, like, will they at least throw a couple punches? Like, we don't even need them to cover the spread here if we're going to go over the total. Can they just throw a few punches in this game? And so they've been pretty good against the number against winning teams. That's part of it. The other thing is just look at the way that they tend to pace and kind of have their games flow. So in their last 14 games, the over is hit in the first half in 11 out of the 14, and it's hit in the first quarter in 10 out of the 14. So they tend to come out hot. They tend to score early. And, I think that I'll probably do this a few different ways. I will probably take the first quarter over. I will probably take the first half over, and I will probably take the full game over. I think that that's the way to go about this. I don't really have a feel, if I'm being honest with you. I don't have a great feel for the spread in this one or the side, but I love the total.
It seems like this is a really big spot for Bo Nix to just put up 7 touchdowns against the Liberty defense.
And I think he's going to. Like, all my, Bo Nix jokes aside, I think that this is I applaud him for playing in this game. I do. I think it's awesome. I think it's good for the sport. I get why guys opt out, as you said. I'm not going down that, having that rant or anything, but I think this is great, and I think he's going to perform in this game.
If Oregon comes out just looking awful, I mean, it's just a slow start, and the motivation doesn't look like it's there, and it's one of those aforementioned quarterback is there, but everybody else, you're kind of looking around going, what in the world's going on? Is this at all a spot in which you'd be intrigued by a Liberty live bet for that line? Is it would probably come down. Like, let's say Liberty gets off to a 10-0 start or something like that. Is this a spot where it would be worth it to bet live, or are there too many other factors? You guys see how Oregon's moving the football. If this looks like Liberty is just kind of carving them up, how would you approach that if Liberty jumps out to an early lead?
Well, before I answer that, let me ask you this question. I from afar really like Dan Lanning. I feel like he's a guy I sort of trust. Pac-12 championship game aside. So I would be stunned if they came out and didn't have a little bit of fight right away. I would be surprised if the game flowed that way. So if Liberty did get out to a lead and that line shortens up and all of a sudden you could take Oregon 6.5 live, I would expect, given what I think about the coach and the coaching staff, to that be maybe a value play at that point.
I was going to say, I think that I love the number you threw out there, 10-0. I'd love the first quarter over. Like I said, it's over 14. The first half line is maybe a little bit much. It's 10.5. But Liberty's team total and Oregon's team total for the first half. Again, these are two teams that rank 3rd and 4th in the country, averaging almost 24 points per game in the first half of games alone this season. They jump out early, and when they're on script, Liberty's first half team total over 10.5, Oregon's first half over 21.5. If you can get that in a book that's over 20.5 somehow, I think there's a ton of value there. I think this is for me, and I've lost a lot of money this way. But I will say that if you're talking about from a value standpoint, the live bet, for me, I just picture this. If it unfolded this way, I would be hammering Oregon. the entire time. And that may be to my own detriment. I don't know. I will also say, going back to what I said with the Ole Miss game, if I'm looking for a teaser in this one, the 6 points, love the idea of getting Oregon down to 10.5 in this one, or 11.5, and covering that. I tell you what, Bob, cover your ears because you're an actual good bettor. But you get a 3-team teaser with 10 points on this one, and you give me Penn State, Ole Miss plus 14.5, Oregon down to 7.5, and then the over at 56. Take all my money.
I love it. I am not that guy. I'm not all high and mighty and saying, hey, teasers are bad, parlay. Let's do it, man. Like I love that stuff.
Marler, how many parlays do you hit during the season that were at least, let's say at least a 4-leg parlay? How many of those did you hit?
So I stayed away from 4-leg parlays this year. I stayed away from most irresponsible betting this year, to be honest. I had a really good year. I think the big picks energy. I think we were around 68% on the season.
Wow.
And it was again a lot of first half stuff. Sometimes playing it safe with like money line, but I think if I'm taking a parlay, like it's mainly money line. You know what I mean? It's mainly money line that I'm throwing in there. There's a couple in here that you can see like working in the props, like maybe a team to score 3 straight times. I love Oregon to do that. So if you're talking about like maybe a prop bet that you can like you said bake into a parlay, I would venture to say I think that's a good bet. But yeah, 4-leg parlays for me, kind of a thing. I'm 37 now, Connor. You got to grow up at some point. Count Chocula, Peter Pan. I can't be doing that.
Peter Pan, like peanut butter, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, look, I think if you're approaching this from the confidence pool standpoint, this game probably will not make or break your confidence pool unless somebody's getting really weird and putting only like 8 on Oregon or something like that. This is one of those games that will probably be in the mid to high 30s, and everybody will be kind of aligned. There's not a whole lot of bowl game spreads that are minus 17.5 in favor of a Power 5 team against a Group of 5 team. So don't expect to necessarily. There's not really a whole lot of other ways to play that unless you want to go really rogue and you just don't have a lot of confidence in Oregon. But still, that would probably be my suggestion. Guys, any other thoughts on this game before we put a bow on the non-playoff New Year's Six Bowls?
The only other one I have here is player prop oriented. Again, we don't have the actual numbers in front of us here, but just something to be aware of. Troy Franklin declared for the draft. He will not play in this game. Tez Johnson, however, has hit his yardage total on the over in 6 of his last 7 games. I would expect increased volume for him in this game, so that would probably be a pretty smart play.
But Bob, do you like Bo Nix? He'll probably be around 2.5, I would think. If they go 3.5, it's probably too much for me. But 2.5, I think there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, when you were talking about Brock Bowers, like if he were to play, like how would they give him the send off? Would it just be more ceremonial? Would it be like, hey, I'm out here, thanks for the memories, or would he be a focal point? I think Bo Nix is absolutely going to be the focal point. Anytime, and they can quick strike from 50 yards out, and they're probably going to, but they get down inside the 10-5. I think there's going to be a lot of play action. It's going to be the Bo Nix show. They're not going to have 4 rushing touchdowns in this game. So I think that's a real wise idea.
Screen passes look the same in the box score. That's what many people have said about Bo Nix's stats. Yeah, no. Hey, sports fans, we've got an exciting offer exclusively for new users of ESPN Bet. When you join, be sure to enter the promo code SOUTH during sign up to unlock an additional $50 in your betting account. That's right. You can wager on your favorite sports and receive up to $250 in bonus bets when you use the promo code SOUTH. Please remember, you must be 21 years old to participate in sports betting. We encourage responsible gambling within your means. If you ever need assistance or support, please reach out to 1-800-522-4700. Join the action today and make the most of this fantastic offer.